Mr. Louie, can you let us know when we're ready to go?
Yeah.
Here's mine.
Okay, some back here, buddy. Sorry, I should have laid them this way. Oh, okay. I thought we just laid them all together. I guess they.
Okay, these I think are mishmashed. These I have organized. Okay.
Georgia girl. She wants these back too, right? Give them
Oh, wait a minute. Here, I'm sorry. I wrote on mine. I'm sorry. Oh.
Okay, we have come out of executive session. No action was taken. Next up is action out of executive session. Mr. Copeland.
Yes, Chairman, I'd like to make the motion for the approval of collective bargaining agreement between Illinois Border of Police and the Stephenson County Sheriff's Department. Second.
So motion by Mr. Copeland, second by Mr. Hadley. I would also ask if you would please remember to press the button on your microphone when you do speak. Is there any discussion on the contracts? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Kurt Copeland,
Aye.
Adam Mottero,
Aye.
Larry Jogers,
Aye.
Brooke Deininger,
Aye.
Scott Helms,
Aye.
Nicole Baker, Brian Brandt,
Aye.
Ronnie Bush,
Aye.
Luann Hayes,
Aye.
Casey Anthony, William Hadley,
Yes.
Jim Hart,
Yes, ma'am.
12 0 nay, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hayes.
Yes, Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve the settlement of case court versus Stephenson County 2023 MR2.
Is there a
Second.
Second by Mr. Hart. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Luann Hayes,
Yes.
Casey Anthony,
Aye.
William Hadley,
Yes.
Jim Hart,
Aye.
Kurt Copeland,
Aye.
Adam Mottero,
Aye.
Larry Jogers,
Aye.
Brooke Deininger,
Aye.
Scott Helms,
Aye.
Nicole Baker,
Aye.
Brian Brandt,
Aye.
Ronnie Bush.
Aye.
12 0 nay, motion carries.
Very good. Thank you very much. Next, we have the audit report. Lindsay Fish is here from Sickich. Lindsay, would you mind coming in, please? Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Is this on?
I can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. My name is Lindsay Fish. I'm a partner at Sickich. I was in charge of overseeing the audit for the county for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2023. As a result of our audit, we issued several different reports. You should have hard copies in front of you. My comments tonight will focus on the largest of the reports, the annual financial report. I'll try to give you some page numbers as I go along. What I'll do is I'll go over our independent auditor's report. I'll go over any findings that we had during the audit and then give a few financial highlights as well. Feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation. So starting with the annual financial report, we're going to flip to page number 1. It's about 4 pages in. It's on Sickich letterhead titled Independent Auditor's Report. So in order for us to give an opinion on the financial statements, we follow 2 sets of standards. The auditing standards that come from the AICPA, and those standards tell us the type of procedures we perform when conducting our audit. And then the second set of standards comes from GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. GASB sets the rules for the financial statement presentation for local governments such as the county. Second paragraph there under opinions, you'll find your opinion on the financial statements. We have issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, also called a clean opinion. This is the highest level of assurance that we can provide. So congratulations to the county on the receipt of that unmodified opinion. From there, I'm going to flip to the next report that's on Sickich letterhead that starts on page number 5. This opinion is required, and it is our report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance with laws and regulations. Within this opinion, we have no findings over no non-compliance with laws or regulations, so a clean opinion there. However, the results of our testing did find that we had 4 findings that we consider to be material weaknesses over internal control over financial reporting. So what that means is that material weakness is a deficiency in internal control such that there is a possibility that a material misstatement in your financial statements would not be prevented or detected in a timely manner. So I'll go over those findings with you next. So that starts on page 7. So of those 4 material weaknesses that are reported this year, 3 are repeated from the prior year, and 1 is a new finding this year. So the first one relates to material audit adjustments. So anytime there are material audit adjustments that are proposed by the auditor and posted by the county, that means that there was some sort of weakness in internal control that we had to post those adjustments. So our recommendation here is just for the county to continue to review, their year-end close process and ensure that transactions are recorded in the proper period and proper fund and proper line item. The second finding relates to the tracking of capital assets. So in this finding in the past, we did recommend that the county implement a capital asset policy. So that was implemented and that portion of the finding has been removed. Going forward, this finding just relates to the working listing of capital assets that the county maintains. So this year as auditors, we met with departments heads and we updated the asset listing. So our recommendation going forward is that the county maintains that listing and works with departments to have that updated before the audit starts. The finance team did request that listing from us earlier this week, so I do anticipate that they'll work on getting that updated in the finance department going forward. Finding number 3 is bottom of page 8, relates to nursing home receivables. So just a little bit of background. So that when we start our audit, we get a trial balance from the finance team and we put that into our software for the audit. When we got that trial balance from the finance team, the nursing home receivables balance hadn't changed from 2022. So it hadn't been changed year over year. I understand that the nursing home does track those receivable balances on their end. So our recommendation is just for the finance team and those working at the nursing home work together to ensure that the county's general ledger is also updated to reflect those changes in balances. The last finding is on the bottom of page 9, relates to nursing home payables. Again, kind of relates to how we get the trial balance from the finance team and that balance should be fully adjusted when we start the audit. We had several manual adjustments this year related to nursing home payables, partially, I think, due to the timing of when invoices were paid and when invoices were brought in. So we had to make some adjustments to record that as the actual balance at year end. There were some questions on this finding at the finance committee meeting, so I just wanted to clarify here as well. The finding isn't because payments are being made late. It's more so that ensuring that there's a cutoff date when all payables must be accounted for and that the general ledger is updated to reflect what that payable balance is, not necessarily on payment dates, but more accounting for them and making sure you have a full accurate listing in your general ledger. So all these findings are also included within your single audit report as well. That's a report that's required because the county spends more than $750,000 in federal funds. Within that single audit report, you'll also find management's responses to each of the findings as well. It's on county letterhead, and those responses are prepared by county management. Before I go over financial highlights, any questions on any of the findings before we switch gears? Okay. So we'll go to page number 13. This is your statement of net position. I would call this kind of your high-level 10,000-foot view of the county's financial statements. The reason I say that is because this pulls in all of your capital assets, as well as all of your long-term debt, and including your pension liabilities. This presentation isn't necessarily used in operations very often. It is required to receive that unmodified opinion, though. Focus here would be on net position. Governmental activities had ending net position of $36.5 million. Of that, $10.7 million was invested in capital assets. You had net position that was restricted due to various tax levies in those funds, and then an unrestricted net position of $7.6 million. Business type activities, which would be your nursing home fund, had an ending net position of $1,046,000. Of that, $922,000 was invested in capital assets, and the remaining balance of unrestricted net position was $123,000. Page number 14 and 15 is called your statement of activities. Again, that kind of high-level view of your financial statements. Focus here would be on the bottom of page 15, your change in net position. Governmental activities had an increase in net position of about 4.5 million, and your business type activities had an increase in net position of 604,000. Page number 16 is your balance sheet for your governmental funds. So this is that governmental activities. This is your tax supported funds. General fund and the ARPA fund were the two funds that are considered to be major and have that separate presentation in their own column. This is just due to the amount of activity in those funds. We do a calculation as to which funds are considered to be major. And then you had a single column for your non-major governmental funds combined as well. Second line from the bottom there, you'll see your total fund balances by fund. General fund had fund balance of 8.3 million. ARPA fund had 339,000 of fund balance. And then those non-major governmental funds had 18.6 million in fund balance. One thing I'd just like to highlight for the general fund here, a good way to look at the health of your general fund would be comparing your unassigned fund balance to your annual operating expenditures, just to see how much reserves that you have in place. So when comparing your unassigned fund balance to your annual operating expenses, you had about 8 months worth of reserves there. So right in the range where you want to be in healthy fund balance there in your general fund. Page number 18 is your income statement for those governmental funds. Third line up from the bottom, you'll see your change in fund balance. So general fund had an increase in fund balance of 955,000. ARPA had an increase of 295,000, and those non-major governmental funds had an increase of 210,000. Overall, a 1.5 million increase in fund balance in your governmental funds. Next page is page 20 and 21. So this is your statement of net position for your proprietary funds. Two columns there, you have your enterprise fund, which is the nursing center fund, and then your internal service fund, which is your employees' health insurance fund. So total net position for the nursing home was about 1 million, as I mentioned in the front of the report as well, those same figures that we had mentioned. Of that amount, again, 922,000 is your investment in capital assets. The remaining amount, which is considered available for spending, called unrestricted fund balance, is 123,000. For comparative purposes, when looking at that net position compared to last year, you still had that net investment in capital assets, but last year there was unrestricted but a deficit of 500,000. So seeing some improvements there within your net position. However, if you're doing the same metrics where I talked about with your general fund, where you compare your unrestricted fund balance to your annual operating expenditures, still very low balance there compared to your annual operating expenditures. I'm sure that you're aware of that. Next page is page number 21. This is your income statement for your nursing home and your internal service fund. Again, had an increase in net position of 604,000. You'll see four lines up from the bottom is a transfer out, and just kind of wanted to clarify what that related to. So that transfer out was the nursing home paying their share of IMRF, FICA, health insurance, and workers' compensation insurance for the nursing home employees. So that's recorded as a transfer out. It goes to the IMRF fund, and the IMRF fund pays that expense. So that's why it's reported that way. Another question that came up in finance committee, I just want to make sure that we covered, was like the profitability of the nursing home. How do you look at this statement and tell what the profitability was? So to start, I would say in the middle of the page, you'll see a line called operating income. So I'd look at that operating income first. So nursing center fund had operating income of 778,000. However, I would also take into consideration that transfer out, because that transfer out was for operations. It was to pay, part of employees' benefits. So overall, if you net those two figures, operating income of about 109,000 there.
Excuse me, what were the items on the transfer out? Again, it was the IRMF and the work comp and what else?
IMRF and then FICA and then workers' compensation and health insurance.
Thank you.
Sure. Page number 22 is your statement of cash flows. I also thought this was just interesting to highlight here for your nursing center fund. You can see your change in your cash balance and what that relates to. It might be a little confusing because you saw that last year you had, a cash balance of 300,000. Why do we only have 100,000 of cash this year? So I thought this was worth highlighting. The biggest reason that while your net position increased, your cash balance went down because the nursing center did repay a loan that the general fund had given the nursing center last year. So that accounted for 420,000 of your decrease in cash balance. So that's why that balance went down, because of the repayment of that loan.
What was that loan for to the nursing home? How much was that for?
That was the intergovernmental, not intergovernmental, that was the money that was moved out of mill race
Mhm.
to cover cash flow
Oh, okay,
while you were chairman.
okay.
Yeah, I'm showing at least this year, 420,000 was repaid.
420 was the number on that, you said?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
From there, page 24 and 25 is your statement of net position for your fiduciary funds. If you remember a few years back, these were called agency funds. A new accounting standard that came out a few years ago now calls these custodial funds. So these are funds that aren't the county's money. The county does not have the discretion to decide how they're spent. However, the county has administrative responsibilities for these funds. So total assets were 1.9 million of those fiduciary funds. Turning the page from there is the notes to the financial statements. So here you will find some additional information as far as the accounting policies that's used by the county. You'll find information on the capital asset additions and disposals during the year. Further information on your pension plans and any debt as well are included within the notes to the financial statements. One item I would like to highlight is on page number 34 for deposits and investments. One thing that we do as a part of our audit procedures is we review the bank balances of all the cash that the county has on hand and just ensure that you're in compliance with your investment policy, making sure that all your funds are fully collateralized. Happy to report that all bank balances were fully collateralized at year end during the audit. And just a couple more pages I'd like to highlight for you this evening. Page number 63 and 64. This is your change in your net pension liability for IMRF. Measurement date is 1 year behind, which is allowable under accounting standards. And the reason that it's reported 1 year behind is just for timeliness of financial reporting. Sometimes IMRF's information doesn't come out soon enough to include it within your report. So it is as of December 31st, 2022. Bottom right corner there, you'll see your net pension liability was $976,000. That put you at 98% funded. So a very well positioned in that pension plan there with IMRF. And what that means for you is that kind of dictates what your IMRF employer rate will look like. So it's been historically low the last couple of years with having a net pension asset the last couple of years as well. Page number 65 and 66 is your net pension liability information for your sheriff's law enforcement personnel. Again, same measurement date, same bottom right corner there, you'll see your net pension liability was 5.4 million. So while a little bit higher than your regular plan, still 85% funded there for SLEP. So again, very well positioned there with your pension plans. That concludes my comments on the reports, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? If not, is there a motion to accept and lay over, receive and lay over?
I make a motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Deininger. Is there a second?
Okay.
Mrs. Hayes. Any further discussion?
Yes,
Mr. Hadley, can you make sure your microphone is on, please?
yes, quite a bit to digest here. If we have some questions, would there be a chance that you'll be back next month? Possibly. I know that we haven't done this in the past, but
What I would ask is if you have questions to give them to Administrator Newcomer and have her reach out to Lindsay. And if it's appropriate, we would ask for her to come out. There would be additional expense for her to come back out.
yeah, well,
I'm sure she'd be willing to answer questions via email.
okay then.
Anything else? Okay, we don't take a vote on receive and lay over, correct?
Oh, I think you do.
Do we?
Yeah.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Brooke Deininger,
Aye.
Scott Helms,
Aye.
Nicole Baker,
Aye.
Brian Brandt,
Aye.
Ronnie Bush,
Aye.
Luann Hayes,
Aye.
Casey Anthony, William Hadley,
Yes,
Jim Hart,
Aye.
Kurt Copeland, Adam Otero,
Aye.
Larry Jogers.
Aye.
12A, 0 motion carries.
All right, great. Thank you, Lindsay. We appreciate your time tonight. Next, we have a 708 board presentation by Rosecrans Addiction and Mental Health Services. And Jamie Ditto is here to do that. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Yes, these, I'll start with. It's a little intimidating. Hi, yeah, I'm from Rosecrans. I oversee the Rosecrans Freeport Clinic, which actually we're now calling Rosecrans Stephenson County. We provide behavioral health services as a whole, which would be mental health and substance use disorder services. So we offer adult substance use services on site, which would be group and individual sessions, all fundings. We do provide adolescent services as well. Those are all via telehealth. We have mental health services, which includes individual counseling, family counseling, a community support team, psychiatry, mobile crisis response, and pathways. So I know that's a lot, and it's a lot of weird things you probably don't know what they are. So community support team, we go out into the community, we help get people to and from appointments, go to the grocery store, help manage their representative payee if that's a program that they're entered in. So just kind of meeting people out in the community, intensive case management essentially is what that is. That is for adults only right now, not adolescents. For counseling, we do serve ages 5 and up. Psychiatry is ages 6 and up. Again, they're all fundings, doesn't matter. No funding, any funding, doesn't matter. And then mobile crisis response is exactly what it sounds like. We go out either in person or virtually to respond to crisis. So if somebody's called into the CARES line, if somebody calls a 988, that all gets streamlined to Rosecrans. And FHN actually has a direct line to our crisis team, so they can just call straight in. And they will come either virtually or in person to help de-escalate the situation. And if they can't, they will get those individuals connected to hospitalization or stabilization as required. Pathways is a state-led program housed by Rosecrans. So if we have kids who are frequently called into the CARES line, the state can flag them and refer them into the Pathways program, where they will create like a collaborative meeting between multiple providers. So you might see in these meetings a PCP, someone from the school, a parent, the client, the Pathways individual. If they're on probation, you could have a probation officer present. And they do, and there's always a representative from the insurance company as well. So they get together and decide what are the needs, how do we fill that need for this individual as a team. And I mean, it's anything down to like, we had a child who never had a teddy bear before, we bought him a teddy bear. We had one who never had a bike before, we bought him a bike, we taught him how to ride the bike right there in the parking lot at our Rosecrans clinic. So that one's actually a really cool program. It's sadly state ran. I wish it was all Rosecrans, we just house it. So I know that was really fast. I was told fast is better.
Thank you for your service. What you do is amazing. I appreciate your service.
Thank you. We're so happy to be here. So yeah, just let us know if you need anything. Our number is on that flyer. I'm the supervisor. You're welcome to reach out and ask directly for me. That's fine. I'm happy to help anybody in whatever way you need.
Ms. Anthony.
Thank you, Jamie. Can you just provide a little bit more information on how Rosecrans has kind of filled in since FHN Family Counseling is closed down?
Yes. So I know there was a lot of like rumor mill going on about FHN and Rosecrans and what that looked like. It actually was not a merger. We just helped support in the best possible way that we could through the closure with FHN. We did work very, very closely with FHN through that. We did actually do on-site interviews for all of their staff. And we offered positions to all of the staff, and it was up to them to take a position with Rosecrans. So we did bring on a lot of additional staff through that. We actually were able to start a medical team, and that's actually how we started our CST team out of our clinic here. And then they were also, they had staff who actually lived in Rockford. We offered positions to them closer to home as well. So it was the whole Rosecrans organization that helped with the employees. And then our clients, we actually quadrupled within a 1 month time span. We drowned for a little bit, if I'm being very honest with you. I think I had a couple of nights where I went home and just like curled up in a ball and didn't ever want to leave. They took pictures of me surrounded by medical records where you could just, only see my forehead through stacks of records. So it got really busy, really fast. We did the best we could to make it a smooth transition for everybody. We did have bumps in the road, as you can imagine, when you quadruple. We went from averaging about maybe 150 phone calls per month to averaging well over 400. So it went very quickly from like 0 to 60. So did the best we could. We've got lots of people connected to services. In fact, I would say probably overall between all services, we've connected well over 800 clients just in a matter of months. So, and still going. So doing the best we can. No wait list. Let me put that out there now because I know that's a huge problem. So still no wait list in any service lines so far.
Are you interacting with our county sheriff's office? I know we have a deputy now that I can't remember the title of the social service type person. I
Oh,
don't.
Erica.
Erica, yes.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
we work with Erica. She kind of calls us when she needs us.
Mhm.
We do offer assessments in the jail. We do them by phone. It's just
Okay.
easier, I think, for us and the jail, really.
Mhm.
But we will do phone assessments with clients while they're right in the jail, so we work with them in that way as well.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Hadley?
Yes, has Rosecrans ever considered about doing inpatient in Stephenson County? Having a facility right now, inpatient people would have to go to Rockford, correct?
Right. So we actually did talk about it. The final decision was no, not at this time. We're not going to do residential out here. We have contracted with, we've got Tonics Taxi. We're trying to figure out more contracts, maybe with Uber Health, because it's hard for us to get them to pick up cases to drive from Rockford to Freeport and back to Rockford again. But Tonics actually has done a really nice job for us. We actually will provide transportation for clients at our cost. So we will pay to transport clients from here to Rockford.
What is the percentage of clients in Stephenson County that are inpatient in Rockford?
I don't know right off the top of my head. We have a lot of clients though from Stephenson County. I actually track that. I don't have the percentage right off the top of my head though, but in any given month, you're looking at 8 to 10 clients from Stephenson County that are actively in residential services.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
You too.
Thanks.
We'll move on to zoning. Director Henning, would you mind coming up, please?
Good evening. The monthly zoning board of appeals hearing was held last Thursday, September 12th, with a full quorum. Larry Toole is requesting a map amendment to change the zoning of his property located at 1754 North Henderson Road from B2 General Retail and Limited Service Business District to M1 Limited Manufacturing District. Testimony was given, and with a voice vote of 4-0, the ZBA recommends approval by this board without conditions.
Is there a motion to approve?
I approve.
Mrs. Steiniger.
Second.
By Mr. Hart, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item, please.
Next, we have a special use to allow for a second single-family dwelling in the Ag District for Tony and Sherry Elber, located at 2066 North Henderson Road. Testimony was given, and with a vote of 4-0, the ZBA recommends approval by this board.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Hart, is there a second? By Mrs. Steiniger. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The next one, please.
The final item on the agenda for the evening was for a code amendment to Chapter 400 temporary uses. Testimony was given, and a vote of 4-0, the ZBA recommends approval by this board.
Motion to approve.
Motion.
By Mr. Brandt, second by Mr. Jokers. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Anything else, Director Henning?
Yes, I have the proposal.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. We're moving on to the proposal. You should have had that in your packets for the evening. This is for our zoning code only. Some portions of our zoning code are extremely antiquated, and I believe it's in the county's best interest to ensure that our regulations are cohesive and up to date. Since we have been collaborating with Hinshaw and Culbertson on various aspects of the zoning office, we approached them to conduct a review and revision of our zoning code. The cost for the code will not be a burden on the general fund. Instead, it will be covered by the zoning trust fund.
Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Jokers, is there a second? Mrs. Steiger, is there any discussion?
I just have a couple of questions. The
Go ahead, Mr.
amount,
Hart.
the estimated amount is 20,000, is that correct?
Yes.
And it's just the zoning
Yes.
code,
the
it's
zoning
just
code.
your,
Yes.
okay,
Chapter
thank you.
400. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Hart?
No, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Anything else, Director?
And that's it.
Thank you,
for
Beth.
coming.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Beth.
I'll be brief with the chairman's report. The 333rd Military Police Company that is out of Freeport was deployed today to Alaska. It's a military police unit, and they are going to Alaska for national security purposes. There was a ceremony today at the Masonic Temple, and the county was represented by Administrator Newcomer, so thank you for doing that. And I think the governor might have been there too, but anyway. Again, we talked briefly in executive session about the budget. We are approximately halfway through. I just ask everyone to be ready to really sharpen their pencils in October as we work to get to the home stretch. Finally, I would like to recognize Marcos Perez is here with us tonight from the nursing home. We have Carrie Whipple here from the health department. We also have Mark Jewell, the mayor of German Valley here. Of course, Dale Rasmussen and Beth Henning. So thank you all for coming tonight. And finally, before you leave, be sure to wish State's Attorney Larson a happy birthday for tomorrow. I think you said you were 30 or 31. All right, thank you very much. We'll then move on to appointments. There's an approval of an appointment for Brad Hartog to the Enterprise Zone Board.
Motion to approve.
By Mr. Hadley, is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Hart. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll now move on to action items and information from standing committees. Mr. Whalen is not here, so Mr. Jogers is filling in for finance, and I believe you have 4 items.
I do, or we do. Number 10 in your packet was the approval and sale of surplus properties. Actually, there's 2 of them that was in this packet here. One of these parcels is a sale for $850, and then the other one is a defaulted reconveyance in which only $1,242 was paid of the $3,900 and 83 dollars that was due. So this last property will come back to the county, which will probably then be in surplus auction booklet in about 3 years or so. So I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Jogers. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Brandt. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Your next item, please.
Okay, the second one is approval of resolution to amend fiscal year 24 budget. This came out of Monday's finance meeting, and I'm trying to copy what the finance director said to the effect that there was an allocation to Mill Race Crossing in the ARPA budget to basically pay debt, which is not an allowable expense. The auditors questioned that, and then we came to the conclusion that it should be repaid. So this resolution is to take the 50,000 out of the ARPA interest line, which is unrestricted, and move it to repay that loan from Mill Race, because Mill Race won't have sufficient funds later on in 2024 when it needs to make its debt certificate payment. That's a mouthful. I'll make a motion to approve.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
And Mrs. Deininger, any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take roll on this.
Larry Jokers,
Aye.
Brooke Deininger,
Aye.
Scott Helms,
Aye.
Nicole Baker, Brian Brandt,
Aye.
Ronnie Bush, Luann Hayes,
Aye.
Casey Anthony, William Hadley,
Yes.
Jim Hart,
Yes.
Kurt Copeland,
Yes.
Adam Mattero.
Aye.
12A, 0 nay, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Your third item, Mr. Jokers.
Okay, number 3 was the number 12 in your packet, the approval of amended intergovernmental agreement with Village of German Valley. I'd like to make a motion to lay this one over until next month. If I can get a second, I'll explain why.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Steiniger. Go ahead, Mr. Joker.
In the original plan, this 500,000 was to buy a polisher to clean up wastewater in German Valley there. But I believe now the Illinois will be reimbursing them. So the 500K is being asked to be allocated to another part of the project, which is elevating all the lagoons from the current 8-foot depth to a greater than 12-foot depth. The reason why I'd like to lay this over is in light of that big budget hole that we got in our general fund. And I think we should wait till next month to understand what the full effect of all this budget is before we approve this agreement and release this 500K.
Before I ask if there's any other discussion, would it be okay with the board if we ask Mayor Jewell to come up and talk about the project?
Please.
Sure.
I'd like to hear
Mayor,
from
if you would, please. Thank you again for coming tonight.
Thank you.
We have had a decent run of luck with German Valley recently. We, again, as Mr. Jogerst mentioned, we were planning to use the $500,000 that you guys graciously were giving us to put in a polishing reactor for our water and sewer plant. That was going to be phase like 1A of what we needed to do. The rest of the phases, we need to put in a new lift station that is 50 years old, and every gallon of water that wastewater goes through this lift station. So it's monumentally important to the village that it function. The IEPA found extra monies in their budget, and so instead of the $500,000 going toward the polishing reactor like we anticipated, the IEPA gave us 100% forgiveness on the polishing reactor loan. So we no longer needed the money for the polishing reactor. So we were hoping to shift the money, and we probably won't need the full 500,000. We're hoping, it's more in the 350 to 400 range for our lift station. That again is it's beyond its useful life, and so we're hoping to get that phase accomplished.
Any questions for Mayor Jewell? Mr. Hadley?
Yes. How much did you help me figure this out? You received what, how much did you receive from Congressman Sorensen?
Well, we haven't received a dime yet.
Okay.
We're earmarked in the WRDA grant that funds the Army Corps of Engineers. And it's a clean water grant. And so they haven't even got it fully approved in Congress yet. It was as of when we had our press conference, it still had to go through the Senate, which they were not anticipating a problem, and then get signed by the president. Assuming it gets approved, or maybe it is approved by now, I'm not sure. Assuming it gets approved, then the Army Corps of Engineers has to agree to do the project, which we're hoping is the case because they've got the $5 million in the budget to do it. So we're hoping that they approve doing the project. And then we're still cautiously optimistic about it, but there's always the chance that a large disaster happens that the Army Corps of Engineers decides they need the money for instead, and petitions to have this earmarked for something else instead of us. So we're pleased that we're this far along, but and we won't see a dime of it. The money will go to the Army Corps of Engineers and they would come and do the project pending approval.
And when will you know about that, you think?
Well, I would imagine any time now we'll find out, that it, when it gets signed by the president, I'm assuming we'll get notified. And then I'm guessing early next year, probably we would find out if the Army Corps of Engineers is actively, because they would do active planning to figure out what our problems are and correct or engineer solutions for our problems.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Modero?
How would the how would the proposed layover impact your plans, or the delay of this a month? Would that have any effect?
Well, we're hoping to get the procedure started as soon as possible because we've got limited time, by the time you get stuff planned and winter's coming. And we'd like to get this done. I mean, there's time pressure on getting the money used appropriately. So the sooner we get it approved and get it done, then the sooner you folks will know what we didn't need and are able to use it for something else.
Mrs. Hayes?
Hi, thanks for coming in tonight. Quick question, how much has the village of German Valley been able to put towards this project as well?
Well, we're already extended quite a bit. Our problem is we had a $3 million drinking water project that we put in 2017 that we got zero forgiveness for. So we have to pay every dollar back for that loan, which is $3 million. So a lot of our current funding is going toward that. We were trying to get the wastewater side of it fixed as quickly as possible, but the funding sources, we've got 450 people and under 200 services to try to pay for everything.
Anything else, Mrs. Hayes?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you very much, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you.
Any other discussion on this, on the layover?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Hadley.
I thought we had to have everything earmarked by 2020, the end of 2024.
Correct.
So we can change course yet if we have to,
Yes.
and have it spent by
26.
26 then. Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Miss Anthony?
Thank you. I am not going to be voting for the layover. Several months ago when this happened, we agreed that ARPA money would go to certain organizations. And it almost seems unfair that just because German Valley hasn't spent it yet, that we're going to potentially remove it from them. We gave some to the city of Freeport and they've spent it all. They've done their project. They've completed it. And so it just doesn't sit right with me to lay this over to discuss potentially not giving it at all. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have mine answer. I'm sorry, did I not push my button?
It's okay, go ahead.
I don't believe that I understood this was about taking it away from them. The only thing that I understood was that they were going to get, for the first part of the project that we agreed to give the ARPA funds on, they are getting a grant that is being totally forgiven. I think the only thing that we're agreeing on right now is a layover to find out what ARPA funds we are providing, where he said we were going to give them 500,000, but maybe now we only need to give them 400,000. I'm sorry if I misunderstood that, but that's the understanding that I have, that we never agreed to take anything away from anyone.
Mr. Jogerst.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, this is just a layover while we're going through this budget process. The other thought that I have is like, between that 30-day window here or whatever, there might be a possibility of another grant coming up that they can gather that one and use that instead, and we can use this 500 to fill part of that hole that we got in our general fund. So I think a 30-day layover is reasonable, and I think it's just best to wait, in my opinion. So thank you.
Mr. Hart.
Curious, what changed in terms of our intergovernmental agreement with German Valley? I know that we would be amending our intergovernmental agreement, I believe, in some form or fashion. I'm not sure if there was a change in date or this federal money impacted it, or
the highlighted section 5 in your packet there. It says they're gonna, you want me to read it to you? I mean, I can.
I don't have my.
Okay,
I forgot
so
my
the
laptop.
change says the village shall be responsible for all costs over and above the county's 500,000 maximum funding commitment, which shall now be directed towards costs not covered by the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency in the construction of the polishing reactor project, as well as costs associated with the construction and installation of a new sanitary sewer lift station within the project. So that's the change in the wording in the agreement.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Hart, I would also say that having a new intergovernmental agreement was at my request, simply because the scope of the project for the funds had changed.
Right.
I think it's inevitable that the federal government at some point in time will audit the expenditure of these funds. I just want to make sure that if that does occur, that we did do exactly what we thought we were going to be using the money for.
Well, I agree with that. That's kind of why I was asking, is that the scope did change with this advent of the federal funding. So,
Ms. Anthony.
Just trying to remember when this first came forward. The initial request was for substantially more, like $2 million or something like that for the entire project, which probably included this. We just reduced it to $500,000, much like we reduced some other requests that we had. But I don't know if maybe that can be answered. But when the initial request came through, did it approve what is in it, what they're requesting now? That makes sense.
I honestly don't recall. I know it wasn't reflected in the intergovernmental agreement, but initially it did not pass on the initial vote for funds directly to German Valley, but there was a motion made to amend the expenditure to the city of Freeport to include this $500,000 for German Valley. And I think that was January, I believe. And of course, if this does pass and lay over, we can get that information as well.
May I ask another question?
Go ahead.
The intergovernmental agreement, from what I'm seeing, and maybe I'm reading the wrong paragraph, but it says to assist with the cost of constructing emergency wastewater improvements within the village. So how does the scope change from one project to the other with just that statement?
The initial, when Mr. Gallagher was here, it was all about the polishing reactor, 100%.
Okay. But it doesn't state that in the intergovernmental agreement.
Okay.
Well, I guess that's where we differ in opinion.
Good enough. Anything else?
do we have motion to lay it over, correct?
Correct. Motion
Yeah.
and second.
I'd like to also hear from Mr. Frick on this because he's been the closest to it and is the chairman of P&D. So I think, I'm very much in favor of laying this over.
All right, all those in favor of laying over, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
I'm gonna need hands.
Let's do a roll call. Madam
Okay,
Clerk,
thank you.
please.
Larry Jogers. Brooke Deininger,
Aye on layover.
Scott Helms,
Aye.
Nicole Baker, Brian Brandt, Ronnie Bush, Luann Hayes,
No.
Casey Anthony,
No.
William Hadley,
Yes.
Jim Hart,
Yes.
Kurt Copeland,
Yes.
Adam Monero.
No.
8A, 4 nay, motion carries.
All right, very good, thank you. And Mr. Jokers, your final item, please.
Excuse me, didn't have it on. In your packet, number 13 there, we have the approval of the bid for the HVAC for the health department. I guess they went back and anyhow, anybody want to make a motion to approve that? It's for the, let me see what the number is. It is for 62,000, I believe, $62,221.74 from Honeywell.
All right, and this is just for the expenditure of the ARPA funds. It's already approved.
Yes, yep.
So that is a motion to approve or no?
I asked if somebody wanted to make one.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Mrs. Dagger, is there a second?
One second.
I think Mrs. Hayes. Any discussion?
I-
Mr. Hadley, go ahead.
What was the lowest bid? And why aren't we looking at the lowest bid?
Well, I will say, Mr. Hadley, that the health department board did their own RFP. They went through the process, and the only reason why this is before us is because ARPA funds are being used for the project itself.
Okay,
So we can talk about the bids.
okay.
Like, but this is, the only thing we can do at this point is either approve the expenditure or not. But Carrie Whipple from the health department is here if you'd like to hear from her.
Yes, please. What did we set aside for ARPA money towards this project? 65, and we're still, okay, so we're still under then. What was the lowest bid and why not the lowest bid year?
The lowest bid was $53,182.01. When we looked at, I'm so sorry, I have a respiratory infection, so I'm sorry. When we looked at all three bids, we already have Honeywell working on our system. This is their system. So we already have a contract with them. This is their system, their parts. And so even though theirs was the larger bid, we believe it will potentially eliminate any future issues with having to work with two contractors, having to work with any problems there might be between the parts that were installed by someone else versus the system that's been installed by Honeywell.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hart?
As from what I read, it seemed like in the bids, I had a couple of concerns. One was that it wasn't bonded. There was no bond required. Was that an exception to the bid request, or was that the way the bid request was written?
That's the way it was written.
Okay. I assume that's allowable under the circumstances. I'm not sure offhand. Okay. The other thing is that the equipment, from what I read, is completely interchangeable with the Honeywell equipment. That, in other words, no one else other than Honeywell could use that specific proprietary info, is my understanding, but there is suitable, exactly the same, but it's not Honeywell
Correct.
product. So
Correct.
I just have a problem not taking the lowest bid on behalf of the taxpayers and on behalf of our reputation and going out to bid for things. I'm not seeing something that's urgent or so important that we can't accept, what is it, a little over $9,000 less, I think, on a $65,000 bid. I just don't think it's appropriate to do that. And it's not our money, it's the taxpayers' money. So I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I hear where you're coming from, but I disagree with it. I think we ought to honor the low bid that we have, unless there's some other issue with it.
The only thing I'll say to that is that this is the Board of Health's approval.
Mhm.
So if to go back to the Board of Health to reconsider a bid, number one, would not necessarily be ethical or legal to my knowledge. And the board, I have discussed this with the board when some other concerns were raised.
Mhm.
This is the recommendation that we were given or that I gave to them, and this is the approval that they have.
So you're saying that you'd have to go back to the board
Yes, sir.
and get a different one approved because they approved this one,
Correct.
but yet we have to approve the funding for this
Correct.
through our funds.
Correct.
And again, I have a problem with that. So I don't think it would be, you'd have to ask the state's attorney, but I don't think there's any illegality in going back and saying the county board, has some concerns with this because it's not the low bid. And there's no significant reason I'm hearing that we shouldn't accept that. So I would, I don't think that's the case. If it is, I'd stand corrected and we would move on.
Anything else, Mr. Hart?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Ms. Deininger?
I believe that the allotted funds for this was 65,000. I realize it's only a $3,000 difference, but I'm going to ask a question to everyone in this room. So just because you want to get the cheapest price, does that mean that you buy the cheapest thing, Jim? No, when the components are Honeywell components, you do not mess with another system going in with Honeywell components. We are under budget. This is what the RFP has spoken to. I think we need to approve this.
Anything else, Mrs. Deininger?
Can I answer that question that she posed?
Press your button to get you in the queue and we'll go. to
Okay,
the next
thank you.
speaker. Come back and speak to that. Mrs. Hayes?
Yes, thank you. Jim, Mr. Hart, this is ARPA funds. These are not our taxpayers. I mean, they are our taxpayers because we all pay federal taxes.
Mhm.
And the ARPA funds were granted out to municipalities and to counties during the pandemic for use. So this is not coming directly out of our county taxpayers' pocket. Okay, so if we have the opportunity, again, ARPA is a windfall. If we have the opportunity to spend ARPA funds to get a good quality system that's coming in under budget, I say that we should approve that and move on. Thank you.
Mr. Brandt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, as I understand this, and I've read into this a little bit, the specs were given for a Honeywell system. The second, the lowest bidder actually provided a system that was built by Honeywell. It's a Honeywell component. It's a Honeywell piece of equipment. It is open source. You can read it. It's right here in your
Packet.
handle. It's open source. Anybody can look at that system. The system that was quoted at the 62,000 is not open source. It's by Honeywell. Honeywell can work on it. Correct. But it is not open source. So not only is the cheaper bid open source, Lesher tried quoting it using the specs that was provided in the RFP, excuse me, and it came in at $87,000. So I think not only are we getting a better system, we're getting a cheaper system, and I have to disagree. We don't have a money tree, even though this is our money. I think we owe it to the taxpayers who spend federal tax money to do the best job. I agree with you, Mr. Hart.
Mr. Hart?
I just wanted to say it's not a $3,000 difference, number one. Secondly, to the point that Mr. Brandt just made, that this is the same equipment. It's just not OEM equipment. There's no reason to believe that this is a lesser product in any way, shape, or form. And I would go back to the beginning and say, why did we send it out for bid then? Why didn't the board just contact Honeywell and get a quote from them? We can't go out for public bids and have people and businesses spend their time and money bidding this for no reason. What I'm hearing is we were never serious about taking a bid other than Honeywell. And I have a problem with that. And I agree with Mr. Brandt. This is taxpayer money. This is our responsibility. And I just don't see any good reason to not take the lower bid for the same work and product. Thank you.
Mr. Hadley.
Yes, help me figure, last month, Mr. Whalen sent this back to finance, right? We had this in front of the board.
Back to their board, correct?
Correct.
We sent it back to them last month.
Month's county finance meeting had some additional questions and asked me to go back to the board and ask if we could potentially revisit with all three vendors to ask some additional questions. And the Board of Health chose not to do that because we went through the process, we looked at all of the information, made the recommendation, approved the Honeywell bid, and so they chose not to go back and redo that. And so it came back in front of finance last week.
Yeah, Monday, yeah.
Yeah. So it was discussed in finance.
It was
What did
discussed.
finance have to say? They questioned some things.
They voted to move it onto the board tonight
Unanimously.
unanimously. I
Okay.
think so, yeah. We did have this
Anything else,
discussion.
Mr. Hadley?
Nope, that's it.
Ms. Anthony.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind everybody that our budget policy that is approved by this board does say that department heads are encouraged to purchase from the least expensive bid whenever possible. So when we make that request, it's not coming out of nowhere. It is in our budget policy that we all, that was approved and passed by this board. I know that there's times where department heads have come through and advocated why they're choosing the bid above, and we've certainly accepted them before, but I just wanted also to remind everybody that it is in budget policy.
Pardon? Of course.
The other thing that we have to consider is when I look back at what the warranties were from the other companies, they don't cover any damage they might do to the rest of the system. So for example, if they're putting in their parts and something with the system gets screwed up, they're not going to cover that. Whereas if it's Honeywell, they can cover that. So we are potentially saving this $9,000 in the future if something happens where these two things are not compatible. One company says we don't warranty this, and another says the same thing. So that's the other thing that we are considering and continuing to work with Honeywell.
Anyone else before I go back to Mr. Hart, only because you've spoken twice? Go ahead, Mr. Hart.
I would just say to that I don't think that's true. And the reason I don't think it's true is that if they damage equipment that they're not installing, that is not their equipment, that's the subject of their liability insurance. General liability covers that. What it doesn't cover is their own workmanship, the equipment that they're putting in. But if I'm installing something and I damage something else, I can promise you with any general liability policy, that is covered. So that I don't think that's a valid issue.
Can I just answer that?
Sure.
I read through their warranty information, their language, and that is not what that said.
Well, it's because I'm not talking about their warranty language. I'm talking about their general liability policy, which we would obviously require a certificate of insurance for them, and they're going to have liability insurance. It's not their warranty. It would not be the subject of warranty. It would be the subject of property damage under general liability policy.
Anyone else for Dr. Whipple? Carrie, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, I just want you to know that we considered everything. We had to look at everything. We had to look at the system. We've been working with Honeywell for years. They know our system. It wasn't something that we just came in and said, we're not going to accept the lowest bid. It wasn't about that. So, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So the motion on the floor is to approve the expenditure of ARPA funds for this expense. Anyone have any other questions or discussion before we vote? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take roll on this. Everyone, please make sure you have your microphones on.
Brooke Deininger,
Aye.
Scott Helms,
Aye.
Nicole Baker,
Aye.
Brian Brandt,
No.
Ronnie Bush,
Aye.
Luann Hayes,
Aye.
Casey Anthony,
Aye.
William Hadley,
No.
Jim Hart,
No.
Kurt Copeland,
Aye.
Adam Modero,
Aye.
Larry Jokers.
Aye.
9A, 3 nay, motion carries.
Mr. Jokers, anything else on finance?
That's probably it. We went through, we got several of the budgets completed or approved through there. We're waiting on some bunch of numbers for the other ones and we'll tackle those next month. So that should be all.
Very good. Thank you. I'll come back to you in just a few minutes.
Yep.
Mr. Copeland, no action items out of public property and safety. Any information?
Yes, Chairman. Sheriff Stowell has 2 law enforcement officers started the field training program. He's got 1 correctional officer and a psychological test for hire. And there are 5 law enforcement recruits scheduled for merit commission interviews. He is about to finish the boardroom here with the carpet. And we have, in the EMA, we have changed the definition of Robin Gorsline's position from assistant director to deputy emergency management director. That was approved in committee. That's it.
Okay. I want to thank you too for your work with the contract negotiations. Your background is invaluable. So thank you for your time with that as well. Just to back up on the boardroom here, the sheriff had told me that they're going to be putting drywall over this pretend paneling that's back here, putting up a new logo. The benches will be split down the middle so you can access from the back instead of having to walk past numerous people. And the carpeting will be replaced in sections. So hopefully we'll have that done pretty soon. And the lectern or the podium will also look different, that you won't be able to see the cords any longer. Okay, we will move on to administration. Mr. Jogerst.
Hello again. Number 14 in your packet, approval of the voter registration grant. I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Modero. Go ahead.
I'll explain a little bit here so that the circuit, the county clerk can clarify if need to be. The county is eligible to be reimbursed for $52,808.97 if expenses exceed that amount. If the funding is available, a second round of reimbursements may be possible for this. So that's what it's about.
Any discussion, questions? Mr. Hadley.
Yes, it says here, agreement submit deadline was September 9th.
Yep, that's a great question.
Did we send it in?
I sent the grant manager an email. She sent me the agreement on August 21st. I responded to her 12 minutes later, and I asked if that could be adjusted so I could get it approved by the board. And she said, that's a soft deadline. She just needs it signed before any reimbursements can be made. And I told her I'd get it to her on the 20th.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, Mr. Jokers.
Okay, in your packet, number 15, approval to apply for polling place accessibility grant. This is to try and get funding for $195,943.61 for improvements for 6 local government entities to improve the accessibility to their polling locations in our county. So I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? By Mrs. Hayes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any other information on the committee?
We did pass forward a few budgets to finance, and then we had a Ninja One item that Nate brought forward. I think it was like $5,400 that he needed to do right away for to protect the servers. So we did that in our committee. So other than that, That's it.
All right, great. Thank you, Mr. Gilchrist. I appreciate the double duty this month.
You're
Board
welcome.
Services, Mr. Bush, no action items. Any information? All right. Mrs. Baker, nursing, no action items. Any information?
Yep, the facility is still at COVID status. The facility did do a testing wide today and no new cases. 4 units of the HVAC has been installed. 2 are on back order, so we're hoping to have them shortly. And census is 41. So all of that.
41.
Mhm.
All right, we'll move on to Public Works. Mr. Brandt, no action items. Any information? All right, is there any public comment? Seeing none, there is no new business. The only other thing I would ask is all board members, if you can in October, please attend the Finance Committee meeting. More the better. With that, is there a motion to adjourn? And Mrs. Hayes, is there a second? By Mrs. Deininger. Any discussion?
I did.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.